Hello, YouTubers. Joe Kersey here on Sunday, January 19th at 14:55, 2:55 p.m., 14:55 Eastern Time. And this is really the third and final video of today's discursuses, I guess more properly. We had a song. We had something for my straight folks. And now here's something for you gay folks. Well, and straight folks who are interested in the gay political, well, gays in general, because they're decent, kind people. Well, both gays and straight. But more from the political aspect of, this gay, well, the political aspect, social politics, not necessarily government politics. Now, back when I was a boy, back when it first became evident that the plague was out there in now very late 1982, very early 1983. I mean, you had the original paper came out in the New England Journal about this odd group of cancers, Kaposi sarcoma, in gay men in Los Angeles. That was sort of like the original paper that was always that kicked off all the what ultimately became the HIV/AIDS stuff. But in the meantime, between then and now, it's been called HTLV1, HTLV3, swine this. It's been a 30, almost a 30 some year progression on this. And once it became clear that this was a bad problem, once it became clear it was in Columbus, a group of us got together, and I don't know how I was asked to be involved. I guess just because I was a doc and I was involved in the Stonewall Union at the time, and that formed the Columbus AIDS Task Force. Now, I very rapidly wasn't able to be involved in the Columbus AIDS Task Force in any serious way because of just my work, and I was going back. I mean, there was no way I could devote a lot of time to that. But and they had plenty of people who could donate money, so they didn't necessarily need my money. The Stonewall Union people, a couple of years before that, had needed money, and I was able to. Me and another guy were able to help keep them afloat for 3 years, and then they took off on their own, and that was fine. And I mean, I didn't start it but I realized they were doing a lot of good stuff, and they're still around. Both these groups are still around, doing a lot of good stuff. In any case, the initial meeting was, there were about 6 or 8 of us. 6 or 7 or 8 of us, and myself, and I was a practicing anesthesiologist. There was, excuse me, there was some sort of, radical priest. I mean, I can't remember these guys' names, quite honestly. There was one fella who was a very popular anthropology / ancient history professor at Ohio State. Who had not, this is in 1983, who had not come out, but it was like an open secret that he was gay. Basically, he would, if a student wanted to have sex with a guy, they could have sex with this guy, their professor. I don't know that it influenced their grade or not, maybe not. Maybe he was very ethical about that. It's kind of hard to be, but maybe he was. I told you it's going to be a little bit raw here, folks. So this guy had been one of the very first people diagnosed with, when they first were able to diagnose the fact of this virus. They didn't know. I mean, they had various different names. And you had the Fauci guy from Ohio, not Ohio, but United States, and there was this fellow in France, and there was a lot of political back and forth about that and priority, and so it was like, how do you handle it? I mean, how contagious is this? This sort of thing. So one of the things that first of all, it was like February 6th or 7th. The roads were ice. I was in my little tiny Escort. Well, that's redundant, isn't it? I was in my Escort, and which was great on snow, but it was shitty on ice, as are most cars. And to go up this hill in the side street, just off the university area, and we're in this little tiny front room, crammed in together, and people are making notes, and and somebody's pen ran out of ink, and so the other guy, handed him a pen, and the fellow sort of shook it down, and then he put it in his mouth. And the fellow that had handed him the pen, the guy that had been sort of, quote, diagnosed, unquote, said to him, "Oh, you don't want to do that, because we don't know how contagious it is." And that's true, and for a long time they didn't know how contagious it was. And so, it's from a gay man's standpoint over the years, who was involved fairly early on in this, at least very peripherally involved. It's been interesting to watch how people's responses to all this stuff, it's gone from terror, and I've got to isolate myself, to, laissez-faire, to back to sort of like modified terror, then sensible, well, not sensible terror, but sensible, how do we, we know what the sensible behavior is, but then how do you mesh that in with sheer flat out lust? So it's like a quilt, isn't it? It's not the AIDS quilt, not the ones where they did all these panels, these guys that had died, and spread it out on the Washington Mall. But it's like a quilt of individual attitudes and responses. Well, a mosaic, if you will. Except that the tiles aren't like one little color. It's like a little tiny picture. That's for you analogy mavens out there. Well, anyway, this is all a lead in to say that over the years, and then finally when they got, they figured out, it was this virus, HIV virus, and then that if you had it for a while, then you probably over anywhere from 7 to 12 to 20 years later, you'll develop AIDS. And indeed, you might go 10 years after you're infected before you develop any symptoms at all from any of this stuff. Once they figured that out, then it was like, how do we test for it? How do we test for it? So then they went through the period of testing. I'm going to say before we get into that, this is something that isn't talked about very much anymore. But, there are 2 points to be made. One, this virus has been around from at least the early 1930s. They have found this virus in frozen blood samples from the 1930s. So this has been around for a while. The issue then becomes is why all of a sudden did it, one, become more virulent, and two, why did then people start getting really, really sick from it in a way that they hadn't done before? Those two questions have not been answered. And then The second point is, it's been around. I just can't remember the second point. Maybe we'll come back up. So we'll carry on. So when they figured out how to sort of pretty much tell if somebody had it, HIV. It was always like you had to go into a clinic setting and you either get blood drawn or and then there's like, well, how can you do a test in your own house? How can you do a test in your own house and not have to go through various invasive, more or less embarrassing things to find out. Well, there were a number of these sort of private home tests that came out, but they never. Well, they none of them were banned from the marketplace, but none of them had like full approval until you got this OraQuick thing. It's called OraQuick. You can look up their website. There's a video to show you how to do it, and of course, there's this huge sort of gay political push to have everybody's got to get tested. Everybody's got to get tested. Everybody's got to get tested. Well, I suppose if you're out having about well, it only takes once, doesn't it? So here's where it gets a little dicey, guys. You might want to click off now if you're squeamish. It's not going to be that bad. See, when Paul and I first met in 1980, November 16th of 1980, now we didn't do a lot of horsing around with other guys then. Well, we've never really done a lot of horsing around with other guys at all. But between 1980 and 1985, probably he and I horsed around with about 15 to 20 other guys, either individually or together in the sense of three ways. Yes, did I just say three ways? Should I put that in the tags, three ways? And that's a lot of, hell, we're 20, 23, 24, 25. That's a lot of fun. Well, no, actually it's not. It was a lot of fun. But it was like 32, 33, 34. I got the ages wrong. And, it's fun. And of course, you're not going out with the guys that have all the holes in their heads and their faces and their tongues and scars in their arms and all that stuff. Look like they're emaciated and you're going home with the well-nourished looking hot ones, aren't you? And using a little common sense in what you do and let each other do, and still there is that risk, isn't there? So you know what I'm driving at. After 1985, that we basically didn't do anything with anybody else. And then after 1988, we didn't do we weren't doing much with each other either. And there was a period of frustration there where I tried to. But it's so sad to do that. And it's sad. There's all this effort and there's no emotional connection. So then it's like, well, I Well, you know, it's like, what are you going to do? It's, well, you either don't do anything, okay, or you try to talk about it, or you know, you drop a nuclear bomb, or you know, it's just, none of these things are good options. Uh, so, you know, I'm not going to get into the specifics of that, but nonetheless, the problem remains: is you know, are you infected? Were you infected, more properly, I guess, given the infrequency of what's been going on or did go on? And how do you find out? Well, now, as it turns out, they've got this test. It's fairly it's it's false. Let's see, it's false negative rate. Well, if you get a negative result, it's 99.9% to be accurate, particularly if you've not done anything the previous 3 months. If you get a positive rate, it's 96.1% accurate. Accurate. So I mean, it has a very low false negative and false positive rate. It has a much lower false negative rate than it does. Has a much lower false positive rate than does false negative rate, but still, that's not unusual for tests. And you do it at home. It's fast. You know, they walk you through it. It's got this little thing, this little tube, and then you go swab, and it's like once around the top gums, and once around the bottom of the lower gums, and into the tube. You wait 20 minutes. You've got a 20-minute window to read it, you know, between 20 and 40 minutes. And you got this. So, having said that, I stopped at Walmart on the way home today from church. And I'm going to show you this. I bought this, let's see, get this in. Fill with picture. Okay, see. So it says, Quick, you know, 4-piece HIV kit, disposable. It was $40. Well, tax, you know, and then there's the line there. See the little line here. Wait a minute. Little line. Yeah. Man, it's hard. Here, let's make this easier on me. Where's my finger? Where's my negative? There we go. See that line there by the C there, or just below the C? That's a single line. That means it's negative. And then you know, I just did that to confirm the date and time. And then here's the larger thing. You've got see that's copied from the kit. Now you've got, it shows you the negative result there. Oh wait a minute. Negative result. Oh, come here. Then there's the intermediate positive result, and then of course you see my result right over here, which is no, that's for my thing. I want to show you the real one here. Mine. Come here. There we are. See, old Kersey. Man, it's hard to do that opposite stuff. See, just the one line. So by the grace of God. Well, I mean, it's statistically very unlikely. You know, I mean, we haven't done anything, and well, we did something in April 2013, but nothing happened. And before that, it was 1998. So I mean, it's like, and in terms of any any activity we had with people that might have been at all spurious, it was like 1985. Well, there, I guess I pretty much told you all about it, haven't I? I got a cough on that one. I'm going to get a lot of grief. Probably not from Paul, but from a lot of other people. But tough. Well, and I think and I think as much as I've I've avoided this whole. See, one of the reasons I've held off getting tested, even though I sort of knew I'd get this result. Well, I didn't know, but I thought I'd get this result. Is that you get tired of this hysterical preaching about, oh, you gotta get tested, oh, you gotta get tested, you gotta get tested, you gotta get tested. Well, okay, fine. Yes, it's not an unreasonable thing to get tested. But this idea that you turn into some sort of moral crusade to get tested is just as bad as the people that spend most of their lives trying to figure out where gay guys put their penises and trying to keep them from putting them there. It's the same attitude. It's the same sort of, hectoring, tell other people what to do attitude. I don't like that. Give me a break. Just give me a break. Well, I think on that one, having now, I won't say bared my soul, because this doesn't have anything to do with my soul. This has to do with my pelvis. My soul's much higher up. Well, my soul's here. My mind and spirit are here. When the stuff that's lower down gets going, that tends to suck away from the soul and mind. Well, I want to thank anybody who's held on to me or held along with me or come watched along this far. So, bye-bye, YouTubers. All righty now.